Oh, excuse me. I'm Paul Schultz.
And I'm Jennifer Schultz.
And we're a couple of beers. Stay tuned because coming up is our very special Halloween episode. We have 3 spooky beer stories for Halloween and the brews to go with them.
So join us for some cheers and fears.
Ooh. We're glad you're joining us again for a couple of beers. This is our special Halloween episode. And tonight we're going to tell you 3 spooky beer stories and the beers to go with them just in time for Halloween. And I'm betting that these are stories that you probably haven't heard before, right?
Right. I hadn't heard them. So it's the perfect night to sit around a campfire, listen to some spooky and some scary stories.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It makes me think when I was a kid, my cousins and siblings, we'd all sit around the campfire and our uncles would terrify us. One of them would tell us a spooky story. The other 2 would run off into the woods and make sounds, bear sounds or Sasquatch sounds, werewolves. Yeah, it was wonderful.
I bet.
So that's the spirit of what we want to bring you tonight. And our first story is a story that involves mythical proportions and the creation of a very special golden elixir.
Gambrinus and the Devil.
In Flanders, there was a poor glassmaker named Gambrinus, who fell deeply in love with a beautiful young maiden named Flandrine. He crafted her a glass ring and proposed to her, but she rejected his suit. How could she possibly marry such a poor man? Desperately heartbroken and despairing, the poor Gambrinus rode off into a deep and dark wood, searching for a strong tree from which he could hang himself. As he journeyed further into the darkness of the old forest, he came upon the devil himself, who proposed a bargain to Gambrinus. If Gambrinus failed to win Flandrine's affection a second time, the devil would make him forget her completely for 30 years, after which time Gambrinus would yield his soul to the devil. Gambrinus returned and again offered Flandrine his glass ring, but even with the devil's charm, poor Gambrinus was again refused. He rode back into the forest in a frenzy of madness that his love was spurned a second time. Sick with unrequited love, Gambrinus again met the devil, who, true to his word, showed Gambrinus a bright green field of a crop he had never seen before, the aroma of which filled the air. The devil called these plants hops, and showed Gambrinus how to make a golden elixir with barley and hops called beer. When he consumed the beer, Gambrinus quickly forgot about his beloved Flandrine. Before he took his leave, the devil gave Gambrinus enchanted chimes, so that when Gambrinus played, the people danced uncontrollably, even to the point of exhaustion. Then, of course, they gladly bought his hopped beer to quench their thirst and restore their vigor. Gambrinus traveled throughout the world playing his chimes and selling his beer, so that soon the whole world was drinking it, and Gambrinus became known far and wide as the king of beer. Enticed by his wealth and fame, the beautiful Flandrine came to him, but he was too drunk to recognize her. The devil had helped Gambrinus forget her completely. He only offered her a beer and continued playing his chimes and selling and drinking his beer. After 30 years, the devil returned to Gambrinus for payment, but upon hearing the chimes, the devil too began to dance, until he became so weary of it that he called off Gambrinus' debt and departed, and beer flourished in the world. Years later, when Gambrinus was nearing death, his body transformed into a barrel of beer, and Gambrinus was in death as he had been in life, full of beer.
So what did you think of the story of Gambrinus and the devil?
Oh, it was very interesting and very spooky.
Right?
Yes.
The thing with the enchanted chimes and the people, and it was as they were dancing and had to buy his beer. It's funny, people are still dancing and drinking hot beer today.
Yeah, but I don't need chimes to do either.
No. But it was really something when finally his love came back to him, but
Mm.
the devil had already made good on his promise.
Yeah, it was sad. It was a sad story.
I don't know if it was sad.
I think parts of it
I
was
mean,
sad.
the guy turned into a barrel of beer. It's not that bad.
That's true.
Speaking of beer.
Speaking of beer, so the beer we're drinking for Gambrinus and the Devil is a Touch of Grey. It's by Sixth Sense Brewing Company. It's a fresh hop ale
Oh,
at
okay.
7% ABV.
Okay. So as Jennifer pours this, if you don't know, fresh hop ales are hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
So usually brewers, in order to preserve hop quality, freeze dry the hops when they're picked, and brewers add them as pellets, or cryo hops is a way now that hops are added. But fresh hop are hops taken directly from the field right into the brewery. So there's a very short window that can happen.
And you have to drink it fresh.
And it's got to be fresh, absolutely.
Because that hop flavor will diminish.
Okay. Well, so in celebration of Gambrinus and the gift of hopped beer,
I'm ready.
We're going to give this a shot, right?
Ready? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see what's happening on the nose here.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness.
Definitely hoppy. But
you have a hoppy what?
Smells.
I have flowers.
I get sweetness on the smell.
Oh,
just a touch. Not overwhelming.
There's some citrus, but there's more floral. There's more floral notes going on there.
I like that smell
almost
lot.
Like a little lavender almost.
Maybe, yeah.
All right, here we go. The Gambrinus.
The Gambrinus. Oh, that's fresh.
That's so distinct.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly hoppy flavors, but those are smooth.
Mm-hmm.
I almost want to say round flavors.
Mm-hmm. It's very balanced.
It's bitter, but it's not sharp at all.
No, it's very smooth.
There's a lot of malt, and I mean, I get a warming from the alcohol.
You know, it's funny you mentioned lavender, and I almost now get a flavor of it. I don't know if it's actually there, but I get it.
You know where I'm getting it now, though?
Where?
After I drink, coming through the nose again.
Okay.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, so we're going to give you the score, but right after the score, stay tuned because we're going to have our second story, and that is the story of Gwion and the Beer of Knowledge.
Ceridwen, the Welsh underworld goddess of inspiration, wisdom, and prophecy, had a son named Gwion, who was handsome, fit, and loved by the people. She also had a daughter called Cradylad, who was, well, let's just say, she was not as handsome as Gwion. In order to secure a bright future for her unloved daughter, Ceridwen made in her cauldron a special brew from the waters of knowledge, wisdom, and prophecy, so that anyone who drank it would become the wisest person in the world. However, this powerful brew had to be constantly stirred for a year and a day to reach its full potency. Ceridwen quickly tired of the task and asked her son Gwion to stir the brew. He faithfully did as he was asked and stirred for an entire year. But on the last day, some of the brew splashed onto his hand and burned him. He quickly stuck his fingers into his mouth to nurse his wound, and inadvertently consumed some of the brew of knowledge intended for his sister. Ceridwen was furious that her daughter's gift had been taken by Gwion, and so she pursued him to the ends of the earth. To escape his wrathful mother, he turned himself into a hare, but she still pursued him. Then he became a fish, but still Ceridwen chased him down. He tried to outfox his mother by turning into, well, a fox, but to no avail. Finally, full of wisdom, he transformed himself into a grain of wheat and hid among the millions of other grains in the storehouse, so that Ceridwen could not find him. All was peaceful and quiet until one day when his sister, Crady Lad, decided to make bread. Grabbing a measure of grain, she unknowingly ground her brother into flour, then into dough, and finally into baked bread. And that was the end of Guion. So what'd you think of my story?
I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was he became the wisest man in the whole world.
Yeah, too wise for his own good.
Yeah, that whole bit about being ground up into bread. Like, I remember hearing that in Jack and the Beanstalk. Like, I'll grind your bones to make my bread, the giant says.
Yeah.
His sister actually did that.
Like, ate him.
She ate him. As she was eating the sandwich, I was like, whoa, Mama Cass. All due respect to Mama Cass. Anyway,
the beer that we're going to drink for this story is Knowledge by Rheingeist.
Yeah, so there's Truth by Rheingeist.
And then there's Knowledge.
And of course the Beer of Knowledge. But this is an Imperial IPA, right?
It is. It's an 8.5%. So it should be pretty
Imperial.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is actually Knowledge from Rheingeist. And can I just say, every time I watch you pour a beer, I'm glad I married you.
Aww.
Glad you married me. Yeah.
Me too.
It's just the way, all I see there is aroma.
He's a lucky guy.
You don't even know. That would be an entirely different show. Anyway,
stay tuned for that one.
No, don't stay tuned. There won't be no second show. Behind the scenes. Anyway, so this is Knowledge, and we're going to sniff the Beer of Knowledge by Rheingeist.
Look at that beautiful head.
It is gorgeous. That is a beautiful head. Look at the clarity too.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful color, clear.
Oh, and the firelight coming.
The head retention is great.
Yeah. So on the nose. This is deeply malty. Mm-hmm. And you know that because it's got that big ABV.
Yeah.
So it's going to have a big malt characteristic.
Right.
But that dose of hop really balances that in the nose. Mm. So is it malty? Yes. Is it citrusy, hoppy, resinous? Yes.
Yes, and yes.
Yes. More of that? Mm-hmm. All right. Here we go.
Here we go.
Oh my goodness sakes. That is bold on both the ends that we just talked about.
I'm trying to think what that is. Is there a bit of a caramel?
Yes.
To it?
Absolutely.
Sweetness?
Absolutely. In the malt? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I definitely got that. Mm-hmm. But the powerhouse of hop cleans that up. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not like it doesn't taste oversweet to me because of the bittering balance.
Right.
In the beer, right?
Right.
So that's fantastic.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
It's a very good Imperial.
Okay, well, we're going to give you our score, but stay with us because coming up, we're actually going to tell a beer horror story that is founded in truth.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
So we're going to tell you the story of the Great London Beer Flood of 1814 and the ghost of Eleanor Cooper.
In 1814, in the city of London, at the corner of Great Russell Street and Tottenham Court Road, stood the Horseshoe Brewery. Owned and operated by the Muse Company, the brewery was the largest beer producer in London. With such high production needs, they had built unusually large fermentation tanks, 22 feet high, and held together with huge iron bands. Each tank could hold well over 3,500 barrels of porter. On Monday, October 17th, one of those iron bands around the tank slipped. About an hour later, the whole tank ruptured, releasing the fermenting ale, which struck the back of the wall of the brewery so hard it instantly collapsed. The bursting wall crushed and killed a young 14-year-old girl named Eleanor Cooper, who was working at the pub directly behind the brewery. The force also broke open the other tanks and the vats in the brewery, adding to the flood which now burst onto the street. The flood reached George Street and New Street with a tsunami of porter 15 feet high and killed 8 people that day. Muse and Company was sued for the deaths caused by the accident at the Horseshoe Brewery, but the judge found that the incident was an act of God, and therefore the brewery was not responsible. Muse and Company were saved from bankruptcy when their insurance policy paid off, but no help was to come to the families of those who lost loved ones. The brewery was demolished and relocated, and the Dominion Theater was erected on the site and stands there even to this day. And, even to this day, there are some who say that they have caught a glimpse in the shadows of the theater, a glimpse of a young maiden girl searching for something. For what? Who knows? But some say it is the ghost of young Eleanor Cooper, looking for someone to be responsible, to be held accountable for her untimely death. So the next time you're enjoying a pint of porter, spare a thought for the lives lost in the Great London Beer Flood of 1814, and for poor Eleanor Cooper, that they may all find peace at the last.
You know, this ghost story aside, my heart goes out to 14-year-old Eleanor losing her life and crushed at the site.
Oh, so
and for
sad.
the others that lost their lives too.
So sad.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Now, the beer of the Great London Beer Flood was a porter, an English porter.
English porter, yes.
Yeah, and our bottle shop didn't have one in stock, so
we got an American porter.
We did, and that has this drawback. So an English porter would be somewhere around 4% to 5.4%, and Americans, every time we take a style, we tend to do what?
We make it more alcoholic.
Yeah, and this is going to be what?
So this is an American porter. It's called Mobius by Equilibrium Brewing Company. It's a 7%.
Okay.
So
wow.
Much higher than an English.
That also explains why my tongue is looser than when we started.
All right. Ready for me to pour?
I think I'm ready.
All right. Let's do this.
Oh, look at that in the firelight. Oh, my goodness.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
You got
embers coming at you. No, it's kind of romantic, to be honest. Look, you've got not a really big head, but I mean, it's certainly there, maybe half an inch. Chocolate, coffee notes. A little more, maybe a little more robust than I'm used to a porter being.
I think so.
You see, for me personally, I could live in English porters.
Because they're,
I could.
You like
oh my goodness, I love the flavor. I love the drinkability. So this is probably going to be a little much for me.
You think?
Well, we'll see.
All right.
Let's give it a try. To the memory of Eleanor Cooper.
And all who lost their lives.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
Surprisingly more drinkable than I thought it would be. In other words, it's not big-bodied. It's fairly light-bodied.
You think so?
Yeah, I do.
I feel like it's a little thicker than what we're used to. Yeah, I got a little mouthfeel.
See, and I think I was expecting maybe the higher alcohol to be a little more malty, but I find this fairly drinkable.
Yeah, it's
maybe
good.
Not my. Yeah, it is. It is.
It's
good.
not. It's honestly not what I would prefer to drink.
Okay.
But definitely drinkable.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. No, I agree with you. And as far as that goes, like I said, I prefer the lower alcohol version. But
for sure.
So this surprised me. It goes down pretty easily. It's I get coffee on it, and so
chocolate.
You know what this would be great with?
What?
S'mores.
S'mores.
This would be really good with s'mores.
Maybe that's next.
Maybe that will be next. Anyway. Well, you want to see how we scored it?
Yes, absolutely.
Here we go.
Thanks for joining us. Hit that like button and subscribe so that you don't miss any future content. Join us for our next episode. Are you excited about our next episode?
I think you're more excited than I am.
I think I am. So, next episode, we're going to be reviewing pumpkin beers.